Some women wander through their love lives like ghosts in a house haunted by past selves. They repeat the same devastating patterns, drawn to the same kind of man who promises a palace but delivers only a prison of his own making. Have you ever felt that? That haunting echo of a past heartbreak that seems to predetermine your future. A feeling that no matter how much you try to change, some invisible force pulls you back into the same familiar, self-destructive dance. This isn't just bad luck. It's not a cosmic joke. It's the silent, shadowy conversation happening within your psyche, a conversation between the dormant and active archetypes of the feminine soul. These are the 4 sacred masks you wear in love, whether you know it or not. And until you pull back the veil, one of them will continue to dominate, to write the tragic comedy of your love life. The first, the hetera or the lover, is the archetype of magnetism, of intense, sensual connection. She is the woman who embodies the sheer power of her desirability, not just physically, but emotionally and intellectually. She draws others in with an intoxicating blend of vulnerability and confident self-possession. The hetera seeks not just a partner, but a deep, soulful union, a merging of minds and bodies that transcends the mundane. In her light, love is an art form, a constant exploration of intimacy and passion. But her shadow side, the one that so often emerges without her permission, is a voracious hunger for validation. She can become addicted to the attention, to the intoxicating high of being desired. Her sense of self becomes tethered to the feedback she receives from the men she attracts. She may find herself in a series of intense but ultimately superficial relationships, chasing the fleeting thrill of new admiration rather than building the quiet, enduring foundation of true partnership. The Stoic would say she has placed her inner peace in the hands of others, a betrayal of the self. She becomes a seeker of external validation, and in doing so, she forfeits her sovereignty. The Amazon or the warrior archetype is a different force entirely. She is the embodiment of self-reliance, of ambition, and of fierce independence. She builds her own kingdom, scales her own mountains, and demands respect not from her beauty, but from her strength and competence. The Amazon doesn't wait to be rescued. She is the one doing the rescuing, for herself and others. She is drawn to partners who are her equals, men who admire her power and stand beside her as a peer, not a protector. But her shadow is a fortress built too high. It is the deep-seated fear of needing anyone, of revealing any chink in her armor. Her independence can curdle into a cold, isolating pride. She can unconsciously push men away who are drawn to her strength, interpreting their admiration as a challenge to her autonomy. This is the woman who finds herself in a perpetual state of conflict, battling her partner as if he were an opponent rather than an ally. Her drive for mastery can become a tool of control, and her relationships become power struggles. She must learn, as Seneca wrote, that true power lies not in dominance over others, but in self-mastery, the courage to be vulnerable, the strength to lay down her sword and simply be held. Her journey is about integrating her fierce independence with a gentle, receptive heart. The mother archetype is the nurturing force, the source of unconditional love and boundless empathy. She finds her purpose in creation, whether it be a family, a project, or a community. She is the wellspring of comfort and support, the woman whose very presence brings a sense of security and warmth. In her light, love is a selfless act of giving and devotion. She seeks a partner with whom she can build a stable, loving home, a man who is worthy of her care and protection. But her shadow is a suffocating embrace. She can become a martyr, giving so much of herself that she has nothing left. Her love can turn into a kind of maternal control, a desire to manage and fix her partner, robbing him of his own agency and dignity. She struggles to distinguish between caring for and carrying another's burden. This is the woman who feels resentful and unappreciated, unable to understand why her tireless sacrifices are not reciprocated. She must confront the shadow of her own codependency, the trauma that taught her that her value is tied to her utility. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that we are not here to suffer for others, but to find our own inner citadel, our own inner peace. Her individuation lies in learning to mother herself first, and then there is the fourth, the queen or the sovereign, the one who stands in her full power, not by demanding it, but by radiating it. This archetype is the culmination of a woman's journey, the integration of all her other parts. The queen is not a girl, not a maiden lost in idealism. She has been the lover, felt the sting of external validation, and consciously chose to define her own worth. She has been the warrior, fought her battles, and learned that her strength lies not in constant conflict, but in the peaceful dominion of her own inner world. She has been the mother, given of herself, and understood that true nurturing begins with radical self-care and firm, unyielding boundaries. The queen's magnetism is quiet, born of an unshakable inner peace. She does not chase, she attracts. She does not demand respect, she commands it through her actions, her integrity, and her calm self-possession. Her love life is a reflection of this inner kingdom. She seeks a partner not to complete her, but to complement her, a king to her queen, a man who also stands in his own sovereignty. Their union is a partnership of equals, a shared reign where mutual respect is the foundation. She understands that the deepest intimacy is not found in melodrama or frantic pursuit, but in the quiet, consistent presence of two whole souls choosing to build a life together. Her shadow side is the temptation to become a tyrant, to rule with an iron fist, to believe that her way is the only way. She can project her need for control onto her partner, mistaking his unique path for a challenge to her authority. This is a common pitfall for the queen who has not fully integrated her shadow, the part of her that fears losing control after having fought so hard to gain it. She must remember the words of Epictetus, that we cannot control external events, only our reaction to them. Her true power, then, is not over her man, but over her own mind, her own reactions, her own sense of self-worth. The crucial psychological work, therefore, is to recognize which of these archetypes is currently holding the reins of your life. Is it the hetera, seeking fleeting validation in a man's eyes? Is it the Amazon, forever in a posture of defense and self-sufficiency? Is it the mother, sacrificing her own needs on the altar of another's comfort? Or is the queen emerging, a woman who has done the deep, often painful work of individuation, the Jungian process of becoming a fully integrated, whole self? This journey requires a descent into your own personal underworld, a confrontation with the parts of yourself you have suppressed or denied. It means facing the raw, vulnerable truth of your traumas, the unhealed wounds that compel you to act out these archetypal shadows. It means asking the difficult questions: what am I truly afraid of? What am I seeking from this man that I cannot give to myself? Why do I feel the need to diminish myself, or to control him, or to sacrifice for him? This isn't about blaming yourself, but about taking radical responsibility. It's about owning your psychic landscape and becoming its sovereign. When you do this work, the men in your life will change. They will either rise to meet the new, more whole version of you, or they will fall away, no longer able to cling to the broken, wounded parts of you they once fed upon. You will stop being a ghost haunting your own love life and begin to be its architect. You will stop waiting for a man to choose you and start choosing yourself, first and foremost. This is the path to emotional freedom, a path paved with self-knowledge and the quiet, unwavering courage to be unapologetically yourself. This psychological work, this descent into the self, often begins with the unmasking of the hetera's wounded core. She is, at her heart, the shadow of the rejected child, the one who learned that love was a conditional offering, a reward for being pleasing, for being desired. Her relentless pursuit of attention is not a sign of vanity, but a desperate attempt to fill a void left by a lack of unconditional love. To heal this archetype is to consciously detach your sense of self-worth from external validation. It means seeing a man's interest not as a measure of your value, but as a simple, neutral data point. It means learning to sit with the discomfort of being alone, of not being pursued, and finding a deep, abiding contentment in your own company. The shadow of the hetera demands that you become your own most ardent admirer. It asks you to look in the mirror and say, I am enough, right now, in this moment, without anyone else's approval. This is the first, most terrifying, and most liberating step. It is the moment you reclaim the power you have been carelessly handing out to men. The Amazon's healing journey is a different kind of confrontation. Her independence, while a strength, is often born of a deep-seated fear of abandonment or betrayal. She built her fortress because she was hurt, because she learned that leaning on others was a risk she could not afford to take. Her shadow is the unacknowledged vulnerability she buried beneath layers of achievement and competence. To heal this archetype is to consciously practice vulnerability. It means choosing to trust, even when your inner warrior screams for caution. It means allowing a man to see your soft, unprotected places and resisting the urge to interpret his attempts to care for you as an insult to your strength. This is not a surrender of power, but an expansion of it. The true Amazon, the one who has integrated her shadow, knows that her strength is not a shield to hide behind, but a foundation that allows her to be open and connected without losing her sense of self. She understands that a true partnership is not a battlefield to be won, but a sanctuary to be built together. She finds her power not in dominance, but in the courage to let her guard down and connect on a deeply human level. She learns that interdependence, not fierce isolation, is the mark of a mature, loving relationship. The mother archetype's path to wholeness requires the most radical reevaluation of self. Her sacrificial nature, while seemingly noble, is often a symptom of unhealed trauma, a subconscious belief that she is only worthy of love when she is needed. She is the woman who confuses self-worth with her ability to be useful. Her shadow is a quiet, simmering resentment that grows in the fertile ground of her own neglect. To heal this archetype is to reclaim your own needs, to place them at the very center of your world. It is the act of setting boundaries not as a punishment, but as a sacred act of self-love. It means learning to say no without guilt, to let a man solve his own problems, and to trust that his growth is his responsibility, not yours. It is the painful realization that you cannot love others fully until you love yourself first, with the same boundless, unconditional care you so freely offer to the world. Marcus Aurelius's wisdom echoes here. Do not waste the rest of your life in thoughts about others. The man who does not attend to the motions of his own soul must of necessity be unhappy. The healed mother becomes a powerful source of nourishment, but she first ensures her own cup is overflowing, not drained dry for the sake of another. She learns to give from a place of abundance, not a place of scarcity and need. The true culmination of this work is the emergence of the queen, an archetype not born but forged in the crucible of self-confrontation. She is the woman who no longer acts out of fear, but from a place of conscious, deliberate choice. Her love life is not a battlefield of unmet needs, nor a desperate search for a rescuer, but a conscious partnership built on mutual respect and shared purpose. This is the woman who understands that her relationship is not her entire life, but a beautiful and important part of it. She maintains her own inner kingdom, her friendships, her passions, her spiritual practice, and she invites her partner to be a guest there, not a conqueror. The queen knows that her worth is an intrinsic, non-negotiable fact. It is not dependent on a man's perception, his commitment, or his presence. The queen's power comes from her ability to hold her own space, to stand in her truth without needing to control or dominate. She can state her needs clearly and calmly, not as a demand, but as an expression of her authentic self. She doesn't perform for her partner, she reveals herself to him. She understands that the deepest intimacy is the courage to be fully seen, flaws and all, and to accept another person in the same way. The shadow of the queen, the tyrant, dissolves when she learns that true authority comes not from external control, but from inner peace. She realizes that her partner's freedom is a prerequisite for a genuine connection. This is the ultimate paradox of the queen. She reigns by letting go. She relinquishes the need to manage outcomes, to force a man's hand, or to manipulate his emotions. She trusts in the process of life and in her own unwavering capacity to be okay, no matter what happens. This is the path to emotional sovereignty. It is a journey that will test you, challenge your deepest fears, and require you to grieve the parts of yourself you must leave behind. It will ask you to face the ghosts of your past, the traumas that have written the scripts of your love life. But on the other side of that work is an unshakable sense of self. It is the peace of knowing that you are whole, that you are enough, and that you are the sole author of your own happiness. The The woman who has integrated her archetypes doesn't need a man to validate her existence. She chooses one to share her extraordinary life with. She no longer chases after a man who holds the key to her self-worth, because she has found that key within herself. She stands in her own light, a beacon of self-respect and grace, and the right man, the man who is also on his own path of individuation, will be drawn to that light. He will see in her not a need to be filled, but a world to be shared. He will not seek to control her, but to celebrate her. He will not be a savior, but a partner. This is not a fairy tale. It is a psychological truth. The journey from a wounded archetype to the integrated queen is the journey from chaos to order, from neediness to choice, from dependence to freedom. It is the most powerful love story you will ever write, because it is the story of a woman falling in love with herself, and in that act, becoming magnetic to a love that is worthy of her. The woman who knows her worth doesn't chase, she chooses.